Hello everyone. So today we'll be learning how to configure your email domain in the Sertifier web application. Now, first, of course, let's start with why you would need to do this configuration and why you would need to set up your own email domain. And that is for when you want the credential email notifications to be sent from a custom email address which belongs to your own domain. For example, if you do not do this configuration, then at the default states, the email notifications from the Sertifier system get sent from the address noreply@sertifier.com. And if you would like to customize this sender email address, then you would first need to set up this email domain. And while setting up the email domain, it's essentially a very short configuration, but you will need to create some DNS records, which we will see in this tutorial. And for that, you may need to contact your IT department. But other than that, it's a fairly short and easy walkthrough. And once you're finished with all the configuration, then you would be able to send with any sender address that you would like from the domain that you set up. So let's start with the tutorial. Now, first, we will need to enter our organization's email domain. Now, this step is very important and probably the most crucial step in this tutorial because we strongly recommend that you do not directly enter your domain. If your domain is example.com, then you should not directly enter example.com, but rather you should enter a subdomain address. And what we mean by a subdomain address is placing another domain at the start of the normal domain. And what I mean by that is, let me show you. Today, we're going to be setting up this configuration for one of our own domains called verified.cv. Now, if I were to normally enter this domain as such, then I would have a lot of problems while configuring this email domain. But rather than doing that, as recommended, I will be entering a subdomain, and this can be anything that you like. For the tutorial's sake, I'm going to be entering test-4. Let me just do it, test4.verified.cv. Now, what you enter for the subdomain is completely irrelevant. The only thing that matters is it's an empty subdomain that has not been configured for anything else yet. So it shouldn't have any DNS records associated with it yet. And that's important. But the reason that this subdomain is not important is because once we're finished with all this configuration, I will still be able to send emails from the address with a @verified.cv email address. So the start of this address is irrelevant when we're trying to send the credential notification emails. We're still going to be able to use only this part while inputting a sender email address, essentially. Now, once you've entered this, and the reason that I stayed a lot on this topic is, like I said, it's very important to walk through all these steps. Once you enter a subdomain that you like, you press save. Now, once you press save, a lot of different components will open at the bottom of the page, and on the top you will see a status, which is currently passive because we have not created the needed DNS records yet. But as you scroll down, you will see all of the records that you will need to create in order to turn this email domain to an active status. Now, as you can see, we have a total of 5 different DNS records that we have to create, and your DNS provider will of course change. We have different kind of tutorials for, or at least blogs for different DNS providers, but today we're going to be using DigitalOcean as an example, but the steps are extremely similar no matter the different DNS provider that you're going to be using. When we start from the list, the first two DNS records are TXTs. While creating the TXTs, I need a host name and I then need a value. So first, I am going to be copying the part that is before my domain, verified.cv for the host name. And then once I go to my control panel for my DNS records, I will be switching to my TXT options. And like I said, this can change a bit from the different providers. But for the host name, I'm going to enter the part that was before verified.cv because my DNS provider puts verified.cv domain automatically after the value that I input for the host name. So I just need the start of it. And this will be the way that we create all of the records for this configuration and essentially for any DNS record that we create for our own domain. Now, the only thing I need is the value, which I can get from the application with the copy button, and then I copy and then I create the record. Now we can move on to the next one, and it's smooth rolling from now on. I just copy the part before the normal domain, then I copy the value, paste the value, and create another TXT. Now we're finished with the first two. Then we move on to the MX records. For the MX records, it's very similar. We have a host name, priority, and a value. For the host name, I again need only the beginning part. Now it was originally TXT, now I'm going to create an MX, so I change it. I input my hostname value, my priority is 10. This will be the default value for all of the DNS providers in the most general case. Then I copy the value, go to the other side, enter my priority as 10, and then create my record. Now for the second one, we have the same host name, so I'm going to be entering that. The value is different, so I'm copying that over, and then I enter my priority as 10 and create my record. The TTL is unimportant at this stage. For the last record, we have a CNAME. Again, the same steps. Copy the part at the beginning, change over to a CNAME, enter the host name, go back, copy the value, go to my DNS provider, and then I enter the value, and now I can create my last record. Now that all of the records are created, I have the last step of verifying my DNS settings. Now this page won't refresh itself, so I need to press verify. Once I press it, it will go ahead and check that I have created all of the needed DNS records. And now, as you can see, our email domain has changed into active status. Now the important part that you will actually use this configuration starts when you're creating and sending a credential. And for that step, I only want to show the relevant part to this email domain setup, and that comes in the email configuration step. Now I normally have a from name and a subject input open. Let me just enter the tests inputs for here. But the field that is now open and was formerly not open is this from email address part. Now, as I said, I can freely enter no reply at verified.cv, and this allows me to omit the subdomain that I normally entered, which was test4. I can just enter the domain directly, as I said earlier, and now we're all set to go, and the email notifications will be sent from this address, which is my organization's own custom domain, and everything's set up, and now I'm ready to go. Thank you for checking out this tutorial. Let us know if you have any other questions, and you can always check out more stuff that we have for guidance while using the application at our help center, which you can get to from this button at the top right here, and you can always contact us from our live chat too. Take care.